Hello and welcome to The Link. This is a program all about linking you with the resources in your community. I'm Joanie Sutter. The Berlin Veterans Memorial Park is dedicated to all veterans who honorably served. It is a place for those who have devoted their lives to the preservation of American freedoms that we have today, and a memorial to American veterans who have shared the common goal of protecting our country's freedoms. This park is also an educational opportunity for those of us who are not veterans. The poster-sized fiberglass signs of the America's Wars Walkway follow each other along the perimeter of the park and give information about each war and facts about each war, leaving a visitor with an understanding of the full sacrifices made for our freedoms. Joining us today to talk about the park is Peter Galgano, who has extensive involvement with the Marine Corps League, as well as Veterans of Foreign Wars, Vice President of Vietnam Veterans of America, the State Council, co-president of the Connecticut State Veterans Memorial, Incorporated out of Hartford, a Board of Trustees member for the Connecticut Department of Veterans Affairs, and the Town of Berlin Veterans Commission Special Veterans Advisory Committee for Senator Richard Blumenthal, and the Veterans Outreach Coordinator at Middlesex Community College, where he works really hard with state agencies and military support groups in order to provide counseling and guidance to all servicemen and women. That's a mouthful, Peter. My goodness, welcome to The Link. So much involvement from the Marine Corps League right through to the college, the Oasis Center, which I know you were instrumental in beginning over there at the college. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we go into the wonderful park in Berlin?
Okay, a little bit about myself. I am a United States Marine Corps veteran, served in Vietnam, and when we came home from Vietnam, we were spat at. Beer cans were thrown. We actually got told orders to take our uniforms off for our travel, coming back to the East Coast. And when I got home, I took my stuff in the house, hung up my uniform, and didn't even admit to being a veteran for 33 years.
Oh, how awful.
Then I had a friend of mine ask me to join the Marine Corps League in New Britain, and I did, and I forget what month I joined, but in November, Hartford has a Veterans Parade right around Veterans Day. And to my surprise, people were cheering and clapping and saying, "Thank you for your service." And I'm getting emotional because I remember that day, and it was different than when I got out of the Marine Corps.
So it was a really brave step to be part of that parade.
It was different.
After all those years, to actually go and to be part of the parade.
Well, I went to a meeting for the Marine Corps League in New Britain, and met other guys my age, older, some younger, and it was really nice. They had a lot of involvement in the community. So I really enjoy doing that.
Because you're a people person, aren't you, Peter?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then when we went to the Veterans Parade in Hartford, that struck me a little bit more.
So that would be what year, to give us an understanding?
That was actually in 2003.
Okay, so not that long ago. So from 2003, all of the things that I read, Vice President of Vietnam Veterans America State Council, the co-president for the Connecticut State Veterans Memorial, and a really big one, the Board of Trustees. This one's recent, for the Connecticut Department of Veterans Affairs. What does that mean? What does that Board of Trustees do for veterans in Connecticut?
Okay, the Board of Trustees actually meet with the Veterans Commissioner, Sean Conley, and everybody in his office. And it's normally, I forget the exact number, it's 13 or 14 of us get together around this table, and we discuss everything going on with veterans and their families, issues, problems they might be having with the federal Veteran Affairs. Mm-hmm. And we try to figure out what's the best way to handle anybody's things that they need, any problems that they have, included their families. And then we talk about it, they vote on it, it gets done, and then we meet again about once a quarter, or we get together more than that if something comes up. And it's a direction to show that the state of Connecticut really cares about its veterans and their families. So we're trying to do the right thing.
And intervene if there's an area that needs some help.
Oh, absolutely. And then we recognize, not us, but the state of Connecticut recognizes at least 10 veterans every year because they have a Veterans Hall of Fame, Connecticut Veterans Hall of Fame.
Which you remember. You were an inductee.
I wasn't going to say that, but yes, class of 2012.
Congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
people may recognize Peter from CPTV special that they did when you were inducted. And tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, that was separate from the Hall of Fame, but CPTV, they called it the 11 of us, and they went around and they picked 11 veterans. All of a sudden I get a phone call, I get a certified letter, and they said they want to talk to me, and it's something very proud of doing because it covered actually all the wars that we've had, conferences. Yeah, I think I was the oldest guy. I'm trying to think if there was a World War II guy there. There might have been. I don't remember. All the way up until current Afghanistan and Iraq.
And what was nice about it was they did the whole piece, but then they would just put one guy out there, or they put between programming, you'd see one story, quick little snippet, and then they would say, for more about this program, the 11 of us, watch the full program. And so that was really nice, and I think it's still on their website, so you should check it out. So let's take it now, because there's so much we could talk about on the national and even the state level, but now let's go into Berlin, because that's where this wonderful Veterans Park is, and you're on the Veterans Commission for the town of
Yes.
Berlin, and you're also a person that is available, that you've been appointed as the point person, the contact person, for veteran services for people in Berlin.
Right, it's the Veteran Service contact person. I'm sure they're showing my number hopefully on the screen, but anybody, family members of a veteran, fathers of a veteran, or if you need any kind of help at all, please call me. My personal cell phone is 860-604-7258. So having my new appointed position at the Board of Trustees gives me more contacts, so I'm able to help veterans a whole lot more.
Because there are veterans who maybe don't want to reach out for help themselves, but their family may think that there might be some assistance available, or families not really knowing all of that assistance that might be, and you would be the liaison to help get that person to the right location.
Oh, absolutely, because there are veterans like myself all those years ago who don't admit being a veteran, or even at the college where I work, and I'm the outreach coordinator for the veterans. They sit in the back of the room. They don't want nobody behind them. They want to see what's going on. Because they're doing the transition from being in the military to academia or
Or
into
even a lay person, right?
civilian life.
Right, which is something that, we may be able to empathize with, those of us who are not veterans, but those of us, and you were in Vietnam yourself, in combat actually, and so you can understand what someone else is going through and can be the one to be the best help. So when we look at Berlin then, wonderful community, Kensington's a beautiful part of Berlin, and very picturesque there. Where did this idea for the Berlin Veterans Memorial Park come from?
They had a piece of land over where ShopRite is, and that's behind Farmington Avenue and connecting drive is Miserio Drive.
Is it Stop and Shop or ShopRite? Is there a ShopRite over
No,
there?
Stop and Shop.
Oh, Stop and Shop. Okay.
Did I say the wrong one?
Yeah, you
oh,
said
I'm sorry.
ShopRite, and I thought, I didn't know there was a ShopRite in Berlin, but I think there was a new a Stop and Shop there.
Right.
And there was a piece of land there?
And there was a piece of land. It was actually, I believe it was even a dump of some kind.
Okay.
So they started talking about filling it in and what they can do with it. And the project for the Berlin Veterans Memorial Park actually began the talking about it before I became on the Veterans Commission. So then when I came on the Veterans Commission, it was already in the works. They were talking about it. There wasn't even any groundbreaking yet. And then it came through and was made. And then as being a Veterans Commission, we could talk, okay, what else can we do for our veterans? You know, also step back a minute, we also provide bricks. As long as a veteran has an honorable discharge, and it could be, you know, World War II, it doesn't even have to be from Berlin. If your family has a veteran in it, you can purchase a brick and their name will be immortalized forever there at the park. And I think you might show some pictures later, but you would see where the flags of all the services and the American flag in the middle. There are blocks of Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, and by the big granite monument in front is where you can have your personalized bricks.
Fabulous, and I think pictures tell 1,000 words. So let's show the picture. Let's take a look here, Peter, at what we have. Is this is the entrance to the beautiful? Well, I mean, you didn't spare. Look at the design. I mean, did you have a professional designer come in and decide what was going to go and how it was going to be?
Yes.
I mean, it can tell.
Yeah, we actually did a drawing, and then for the actual design on top, our chairman now, Charles Colarossi, he worked for a sign company back then, so he actually brought a sketch that we thought it should look like, and they made it very professional.
They did a beautiful, beautiful job. Let's see the next picture, which is, this is the beginning. There's a perimeter that goes all the way around the park.
Right.
It's all handicap accessible, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Every sign, you could see there's 12 by 12 cement there, so a person in a wheelchair could come in, swing around. The racks that the signs are on, a wheelchair could actually fit under in the back. That's why we have them a little bit lower. Other towns have little higher ones, but we made sure we got the handicap accessible ones so anybody could walk up and see it. And the cement foundations that you're sitting on, they're big enough where the wheelchair can come around, wait till somebody else is walking by or going by, just, you know, pulling out and you know.
And getting by. And I see that there was water in the background there,
Yep.
which is a fountain, which
Actually,
is
two fountains that go up because, as I said, it's sometimes it's not running water, it's still water, and the water, there's a word for it, I can't remember what it is, but it keeps the water moving so you don't have the mold and stuff on it.
Right, the algae, and it's just a lovely sound, too, for people who want to go. And before we go to the next set of pictures, because we're going to show you some of these in more detail, who typically visits the park? Now that the park has been up, you've had your formal dedication, and which is wonderful, but who do you hear about that typically would visit the park? All types of people?
All types of people, and people from other towns visit the park. You know what I like best? Seeing the older veterans. Because every time I go to the store or I drive by there, you see somebody with a cane or a wheelchair, and they're going around, they're taking the time, and I think they're remembering their childhood or when they were in the service. And no matter what branch of the service you're in, it's like a brotherhood. And it doesn't matter, even at the college I'm seeing this, whether they're 20 years old or 50 or 60 years old, they're so tight. It's such a great community. I mean, that's what we have in Berlin also. And that's what makes it so good, is because they go there, they bring their families there.
With the one common goal being our freedoms. And let's look at some of the images, because we have about 10 minutes left. Our time goes by very quickly, but I want people to see that even if you're not a veteran.
Right. So that's the very first sign, is the history, and it has through the 400-year history of the United States. Well, of course, the American Revolution wasn't 400 years ago, but prior we were forming our colonies, we were doing our communities, our different states, becoming the republic, and from that part on, then the American Revolution came. But people don't understand what it will take to keep this going, and that was the idea of these signs. I'm just going to break away, as you're seeing on the screen, it starts with the American Revolution, the War of 1812. But you can see also it tells the dates of the war, how many fought in the war, how many Americans, and then how many Americans died in each war. And then it gives a little story about how it began, and pictures that actually had to get approved from the Department of Defense that relate to each war. And then the QR code, I had an idea. They only could put so much because people will get bored. They won't stand reading a whole book in a park. So I have a Smithsonian Institute QR code that I created. It goes right to the Smithsonian Institute website about the Civil War or whatever war you're watching. And then the other one is for the History Channel. You take your iPhone, your iPad, you use your QR reader, and you go right to either, like I said, the Smithsonian Institute or the History Channel for that particular war, and you can read everything about it.
And so for those who don't know what a QR code is, those two little boxes there with the squiggly lines, most people that have an iPhone or iPad will understand, but that's a direct link. And I'm going to also add that, Peter, you designed each one of these, and each one of these is poster size. And
right, 36 inches by 24 inches.
And they're all fiberglass.
Fiberglass embedded. So I don't want no kids out there to do it, but you can't even scratch it with a knife. If you take spray paint or you spray it, it can clean right off. So that's why they're fiberglass embedment, they call it. And they have like a 20-year guarantee on them.
Now we're up to the Vietnam War, and let's stop here for a minute because this is the war that you served our country in. And behind each, Peter has chosen various colors. You've mentioned that you've chosen pictures that had to be approved by
Department
the
of Defense
government in order for you to be able to use them. And for those who are not veterans, when you go to take a walk around this park, you're going to learn things that you thought you might have known, but you really didn't know. And the casualties is a big one of them, which how many people served and how many casualties there were. Here's the Persian Gulf War. We go right up into present day.
Yeah, present day, because the screen after the Persian Gulf is the war in Afghanistan. It goes by the start date. Okay, we pulled out of Iraq before, with Afghanistan still going on. But it's the start date, and actually, this Iraq war that you're saying, our own Plainville Charlie Company, the 125th Charlie Company from Plainville, you're looking at their Marines in that picture. The first sergeant there, First Sergeant Ben Granger, he sent me all the pictures, some 200 pictures of what was actually going on in Fallujah, Iraq. And
you had talked about the flags, so we're
Okay.
back to the park because all of those posters are around the side. And then is this in the center?
right, that's the actually first part of the park that was built. And you see the monuments as you're walking on the left. The left-hand one is the American Legion, the big monument in front there. American Legion's on the left as you're looking at the memorial. The right one is the VFW, the Veterans of Foreign Wars. That's actually on the right. There's a little bridge that goes off of there over to the Phase 2 and the VFW. And then each of the other monuments going around and circle around the flags, that's for each military organization, Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard. And that's where your bricks can go, right in there on the
Okay, that we were talking about.
A lot of places have bricks and you could walk on them. We want to walk around them so people can read their loved ones or their friends and see how many people worked from the branch of services and fought in the wars.
Peter, a lot of thought went into each component of this, maybe looking at other parks and saying, okay, we'd like to do this a
Well,
little
that's how I
different.
found out. I went to visit my grandson who was in Fort Huachuca, Arizona, and it's a beautiful base. That's where military intelligence began. That's where they got Geronimo, was from Fort Huachuca way back then. But then I noticed a sign, it's very similar to these, called Buffalo Soldiers. So to get the history of the Buffalo Soldiers, they had a path that you go down, and each panel, they didn't have the QR codes, but each panel gave me an education of how the Army intelligence brought up the Buffalo Soldiers were your black soldiers. They had their own unit. And it gives a history and makes us so proud of how we've all come together, no matter of your race, origin, color, it doesn't matter. We're all Americans. And that gave me the idea when I seen the Buffalo Soldiers Walkway, what a great idea to educate
Oh, absolutely.
our communities, educate our children. And I also found out that they don't teach civics anymore. They might touch parts of history and stuff. So that's what gave me the idea. I actually took 3 trips out to Fort Huachuca, Arizona, and I spoke to the base historian to see, okay, how can I get this together? How can I get pertinent information? And she helped me out a lot, and then I did my homework, and I contacted the Department of Defense and kept them going back and forth. So it was about 2.5 years to put it all together.
And how big is this commission? It's a small group of people that did all of this?
Yeah.
A small, with the backing of all the people in Berlin. I'll say that Berlin was really behind the group.
Okay, Berlin, all the people were. And whichever the town council, whether it was Democrat, whether it was Republican, it doesn't matter. Because America is based on being in America, a democracy. And that's why I tell everybody, I got my picture taken with Barack Obama, and I was so proud. But if it would have been Bush, anybody else would have been so proud. And that's what every military serviceman know. Right. Whoever is president, that's your commander-in-chief. Mm-hmm. So you have your differences, different points. You know, they all have different points of view, mm-hmm. And you want to find out. And you get try to get a Congress that works. And believe me, the voice of the people is heard. And that's why the signs is to give everybody an education so they know a little bit what they're talking about.
Do schools, have you reached out to schools to have like a field trip for the?
Actually, I never reached out to them, but we had school buses come up from Rocky Hill, New Britain, I think Groton, Brantford, Westport. I've seen a bus there, and we haven't really got the word out yet. We had the dedication concert just in September 28 to get the word out, but this has started before then. And one really quick, I was on another job. We brought the Global War on Terror Wall of Remembrance to West Hartford back in August 25th. And there were 2 guys talking about an American Wars Walkway. And one guy said, yeah, it was in New Haven. The other guy said, no, we were in Berlin. And I was just walking by them. And I says, no, it is Berlin. I was part of the commission that was able to put that together. One guy was from Groton, the other guy was from Brantford.
So see, the word has gotten out, which is terrific. And the way that the design was done and what you all have thought about every little nuance, this is the kind of park that's going to continue and it's going to grow. The way that the design was, the construction of it, you know, who you chose to build the various pieces, it's certainly evident that the town was behind you to put the money there in order to make sure that it's something that's going to continue for our veterans, their families, as well as our regular folks who want to learn more.
Yeah, and I'm very appreciative of the support that we get from the town and all the commissioners, because everybody has a different idea, and we're all different, who's Democrat, who's Republican, mm-hmm. who's independent. It doesn't matter for a veteran. Mm-hmm. But we talk together, we figure things out, and we figure what's best for our community, what's best for our veterans in town.
That's great.
What's best for being an educational place to go.
And awareness and education are the key for anything, and respect and all that goes along with that. So we hope that you come back and visit us again to talk about any one of the veterans initiatives that you're involved with. And I want to thank you for your service, Peter, on behalf of all of us. I'm sure that it was a very difficult thing to have to go through, but now that you have decided, okay, I'm going to get involved, boy did you, and Berlin is lucky to have you and lucky to have this wonderful park. So for all of us at Nutmeg TV, I want to say until next time on The Link, thank you and good night.